Hi friends, my name is Anup Mayank and today I want to talk to you about Azure MCP. Azure, as you would know, is the cloud offering from Microsoft, and MCP is short form for Model Context Protocol, a protocol devised by Anthropic and is being widely adopted. And what it does is to enable you to talk to your computing resources in English, and we'll see by some examples. So yeah, let's get started. So let's first look how Azure MCP works. So basically, you as a user who will be talking to Azure via one of the clients. And this client could be a Copilot, a Cloud, or any custom agent which you have built, which will in turn talk to a Azure MCP server. And there are steps in the link below, which will tell you how to install MCP server. And this Azure MCP server will call to Azure resources via Azure APIs. So this is very simple idea. So the whole benefit is that you can talk to Azure in your own plain English language. So what happens behind the scene? Your prompt is sent to the MCP server. MCP server figures out, okay, what is the user's intent and what does user want to do, and based on that, it will pick the right tools. Tool could be list VMs, create VM, and so things like that. Uh, and then it will authenticate using your Azure identity, and it will call the relevant Azure APIs, which we are going to see in a couple of examples. And then once it is done, Azure gives back the response, and large language model does its magic of presenting it in a very user-friendly way. So that's all is happening in Azure MCP at a high level. Moving on. So why do we care for this? So first is no more remembering the uh, cryptic commands, or no more going through the UI to figure out where to go and how to do it. You can get this done in pure natural English. You do not have to remember any syntax. You can get your task done in seconds. You just to focus on what do you want to do, not worry about the syntax, etc. And MCP has uh, kept the best options as defaults. We'll see an example. And since it is behind Azure role-based access control, so it's secure and you stay in control. And uh, with the power of MCP, as it is called as USB-C for AI agents, it can work with GitHub Copilot, Claude Desktop, or any MCP compatible AI agent. So again, to reiterate, how does the MCP architecture? You as a user will give commands like, hey, list all virtual machines in my subscription, create a web server, show public IP of my virtual machine. And this, your commands in plain English will go to one of the MCP clients, whether it is GitHub Copilot, Cloud Desktop, or custom AI agent. It will communicate back and forth with MCP via MCP protocol to Azure MCP server, and which has these special functions which we call tools. Uh, for example, virtual machine tools, networking tools, storage tools, and bunch of more. And using these tools, it will invoke the Azure APIs for virtual machines, networking, storage, databases, etc. And that's how the whole architecture is built on to get your job done. So let's look at one of the scenarios. You want to find out, okay, how many virtual machines I have in my subscription. So you just say list all virtual machine in my subscription. And what is happening here is that, as we saw in the previous diagram, this English is translated uh, uh, to help in picking the right tool, which is the VM list tool, and then it calls the Azure Compute API using your credential, and this gives you a nice table like a structure of all the resources, and that's the where the power of LLM is happening. So very cool. You don't have to remember the syntax, etc. Just say in English and get your information fast. Another instance, cool scenario is that, hey, you want to create a virtual machine, and you just say that, hey, create a new virtual machine named my web virtual machine in resource group, my resource group, for web workloads. And using the power of large language models, it detects the intent, what do you want to do. And then it picks some defaults, as we talked earlier, that it will pick OS as Ubuntu, and then size, networking, all those things, ports, authentication, allocation, etc. And then it will create a virtual machine, and you'll get the response that, hey, virtual machine has been created successfully. And now you can follow it up with more commands like, hey, open port 443, which is a secure port on my web virtual machine, or show me the public IP of my web VM. And it will give you all the public IPs associated with that virtual machine. So isn't it cool? Like you are naturally conversing with Azure, one of the powerful cloud environment, in your natural English, and getting the your job done fast and secure. Now let's look at finally, like, how does this help you? So there are one is the command line interface. Now you see that to create a virtual machine, you have to remember all this syntax, and this is okay for developers or somebody who is expert in this, but for other people who are not that much well, or even for to get going productivity, conversing in plain English is fast. And instead of running multiple commands, you could say in one request and let Azure MCP figure out all the details. And instead of you doing manual operations, it will pick intelligent defaults and do the auto setup. And then the whole thing is done in pure natural conversational way, and you do not have to struggle with any of the syntax, etc. And you get your job done fast. So your productivity improves, and I'm very excited to see the practical implementation of large language model in managing a complex environment like Azure cloud platform. So really cool. Please do check out the links below and share your comments. Thank you.